All right. Okay. Shio, how's it going? This is Fierce Truth Seeker of the Red Road East. Yeah, so this is a continuation of the discussion Moors and Indians. This is part 12. Okay. And I really didn't want this discussion to go on this long, but there's so much information to share that, I thought I would be able to do it all in no more than 2 or 3 hours. However, there's a lot of information when it comes to Marcus Garvey. And also, there are still people out there who are not understanding the information that was presented. There are some people who are not understanding the necessity of historical perspective when you are referring to people and their actions from a different time period. Okay. A lot of people think that, a lot of people still feel that you can take modern day concepts and ideologies and make them retroactive. Okay. That's the hardest thing for people to understand, overstand, and understand right now. Okay. So, what I've been doing is putting some context into the whole discussion of people's perceptions of Garvey. Okay. And again, they're not looking at the totality of the experience of our people back then as opposed to right now. Even though, as much as things have changed, they have stayed the same. There are still little fine details that make a distinction between what went on then and what went on now. And a lot of people are bringing up things like Garvey was did a disservice to the Aborigines and things of that nature. Okay. But again, what they're not understanding is that at that particular time period, there was no Aboriginal ideology. Okay. And if there was an Aboriginal ideology at that time period, I'm still waiting for someone to present it to me. And so far, we've had, this is, let me see, let me look and see how many discussions we've had on just Garvey alone now in this topic of Moors and Indians. Let's see, one, two, three. This is the third discussion that we've had on this particular topic. And no one so far has been able to present to me an Aboriginal history among our people at that time. And if there are any individuals listening right now, oh, well, let me go back before I say that. Again, I'm not talking about individuals. There were always individuals who talked about our people being from here, this, that, and the other, but that was not the norm. Okay, those people were far and few. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me pull something up here. And for those who are generous enough to leave a donation, I'm leaving a in the chat. I'm leaving a link for those who are generous enough to leave a donation. Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me pull something else up here. Okay, so let's see who we have in here before I start going into. I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna try my best to cap it at 30 minutes today. And we have the Cobra Assassin. It says Islam, peace and love. Islam, peace and love. Cobra Assassin. Thanks for tuning in. And see, we have FaceTime Radio. He says, you know how it was crazy? I was looking at a Spanish explorer who said Moors are indigenous to South Carolina. Mm. Oh, I think I know what you're referring. Are you referring to? Are you referring to? Um, what's his name? I have the two volumes of the. I have the two volumes here of his journals. I think you're talking about. You're talking about. Oh boy. You're talking about. I gotta go look on my bookshelf. Uh, hold on. I might have here. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I hate not remembering things. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to. I think I know who you're talking about. No, not Cobra Assassin says Verrazano. I don't think he's talking about Verrazano. Um, Verrazano, I believe, was Italian, but he said Spanish. He's talking about. Oh my God! He's talking about De Soto. De Soto. Are you talking about De Soto? FaceTime Radio. Are you talking about De Soto? I think you're talking about De Soto. But anyway, uh, De Soto said something similar to that, not in those exact words, but very similar. If that's who you're talking about, and I do make mention of it in my book. Um, but anyway, let me let me not delay too much further. Let's see. Yeah, I know the reference you're talking about. Yeah, I'm gonna bring that up in a later discussion, though. I don't want to spoil it right now, but yeah, I do plan on bringing that up from the DeSoto Chronicles. I have the DeSoto Chronicles, volumes 1 and 2. I do have that in my possession. But let's see. Uh, Read 123. Thanks for joining. He says yes, he was right with Plecker. What are you referring to? Read 123. We got lost in discussion. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. What's that in regard to Plecker? And FaceTime Radio says yes, it was DeSoto. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm saving that for later. Oh yeah, yeah, because that's gonna be in. I'm gonna talk about that, and that's gonna tie into another presentation on Moors and Indians later on. You know, but I don't want to talk about that right now because then I'd be jumping ahead. And right now I want to deal with this, and we want to deal with this Garvey thing. But read 123. Refresh my memory, because we got off into the DeSoto thing. What was that about Plecker? Read 123. Anyway, maybe read 1, 2, 3 stepped away. But let's see. So now, with regards to, let me take this off the screen here. So, with regards to Garvey, again, they are taking modern concepts and ideologies that exist now that didn't exist back then. Okay. Oh, I know where I left off what I was saying. For those who didn't see the previous 2 lectures on Garvey, I would say for you to go back now, leave this live, go back and listen to the first 2 presentations, because you may be lost in this one. Okay. Because I brought forth evidence and information regarding Garvey and things of that nature in the previous conversations, that if you weren't present for those lectures, then you may not understand some of the things that I'm saying right now in this particular live. Okay. So, with that being said, so now we want to look at Garvey. Oh, well, let me, yeah. So now, so I had gotten some comments earlier. I'm not gonna call any names, but they are very interesting comments, and I thank you for your comments. Those who left comments in the comment section. One person said, "There's never been Moors in America and no Islam doing Moses and North in the Bible." Some of you people really need to seriously get your grammar up. That I don't even know. I know half of what he's saying, but the last part of what this person is trying to say doesn't make the first bit of sense. But I already debunked all of that about 2 years ago. So I'm not going to call the person's name, but if you listening live, or if you listen to this after I do this live, then you need to go back to the past lectures that I did about 2 years ago in the Empire Strikes Black. I debunked all of that and already proved that Moors are indigenous and all of that stuff. I already proved that. We don't need to go backwards into that. You're probably just coming in now, so that's why I say, you really can't come into the live and not have gotten the previous information, because you're just going to be totally lost. You're going to be saying silly things like that and things of that nature. So I'll go to another comment, and one particular comment says, "Appreciate the build. The Garvey being an agent thing comes from the counterproductive tactics towards the true American Indians, in parentheses, Black Indians, whether purposefully or not. It was agent moves." Okay. So again, that is still what's not being understood here in the comment, is that these are modern day ideologies. Okay. And you cannot make them retroactive, because these ideologies did not exist. We're talking about it as a school of thought. Okay. I'm not talking about individuals here and there. Okay. It didn't exist back then. Okay. Give me 1 second. I want to make a note. of something so that I don't forget to mention it. Okay, I want to make that note. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. This is going to get real juicy. Okay. You can't make these ideologies retroactive. Okay. Also, then the same individual says his intent was pure in my eyes until I read the letter he wrote. So I'm still looking for that particular letter. And again, you have to look at. I think I feel that I'm aware of the letter that this individual is talking about, but I would like to see it just to be sure. But a lot of times, again, you have to read things in context. Okay. You have to read things in context. If you don't read something in its proper context, you're going to take it out of context. Okay. So present the letter, send it to my email, TP Longhouse, TIPI Longhouse, LONGHOUSE at gmail.com. Email it to me and I'll take a look at the letter. Okay. And we'll see. Because again, oh, so I asked what was the letter referring to, and they said that he was praising Europeans in the letter. And he says, my point is his actions were not conductive to American Indians, period. It helped with the Pan African ideology, which hurt us more than it helped. Thanks for the response, brother. Okay, so now praising Europeans, I can tell you even without the reading the letter, Garvey didn't praise any Europeans. Okay, if there's a letter that somebody felt that he did, it's taken out of context. Okay, and if there's a letter that exists that someone feels that he did, I'll have to read it for myself, and send it to my email, and we'll put it up on the screen, and we'll read it together. But anyone who knows anything about Garvey knows that he did not praise Europeans. You know, a little background about the fierce truth seeker. So again, the fierce truth seeker back in his younger days was a part of a Garvey organization. Okay, an organization which was an outgrowth of the Garvey movement via Carlos Cooks. Okay, the organization that I was with was an outgrowth of Carlos Cooks's organization. Okay, and Carlos Cooks was a part of the Garvey movement. Okay, so as a member back then, I had I was made I was in charge of the books and things of that nature, and I used to distribute as a book vendor of the Garvey books. Okay, I had all of those books on Garvey. Okay, Race First, Philosophy and Opinions, Garvey Hero, all of those books. I had them, okay? And we had a long relationship with Tony Martin, okay? And I've met Tony Martin on more than one occasion, okay? Tony Martin, the one who put out the different books, Garvey books and things of that nature, and the individual who was the head of the Garvey organization that I belong to, he is the one who wrote the book on Carlos Cooks, the only book written about Carlos Cooks, okay? Because he was part of the organization when Cooks was alive, and he sat when Carlos Cooks was giving his speeches. He sat and he took notes of the speeches, word for word, okay? And he compiled all of those speeches into the book, Carlos Cooks and Black Nationalism. I was right there as the individual who wrote the book, Robert Harris, okay, authored the book. I was right there when he was in the process of publishing the book and putting the book together. And he often talked about how he came about putting the book together, okay? So when I speak on Garvey, I'm not speaking from someone on the outside looking in. I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who was on the inside looking out. So if you come to me with information that you feel you know about Garvey, you're going to have to know what you're talking about, because I'm going to call BS on it if what you're saying is not accurate. Because again, you're looking at an individual who used to sell the Garvey books as a book vendor out on the street on 125th Street in Harlem back in the early 90s, okay? Right there, right next to the Apollo Theater, okay? And there are some who remember me from back in those days who sometimes comment in the chat and say, "What's up?" Okay? So people know that I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not lying. I got witnesses. They know, yeah, I am official tissue. Okay? But anyway, so reading on with the comment here, it's another comment from the same individual. Okay, so yeah. So the Pan-African ideology, I already showed yesterday. I proved that and showed that the Pan-African ideology, Garvey didn't come up with the Pan-African ideology. Okay, it was quote unquote black people here that Garvey was influenced by. Okay, the so-called African Americans here, homegrown, were talking the Pan-African ideology very heavily at that time. And we proved that yesterday. Okay, so let's see. And let's see here. Also, yeah, so that was that for that particular comment. And so now, let me see how many people we got watching. Let's see here. We got 8 watching. Okay, that's good. Let's see. Let me look at some comments, questions. Anybody? Everybody good? Okay, so let's proceed. I know I said that I was only going to do 30 minutes. My goodness, and we're already into 30 minutes. So I'm going to do 20 more minutes. That's too much. I don't know, man. Yo, it's a lot to cover, man. You know, when you think you can do a live in just a half an hour, it's hard to do. You know, it's hard to do even in 2 hours, you know, but I'm going to try my best to just be, okay, we're going to do 30 more minutes, but I got a lot to cover. Okay. So let me try to get it in as fast as possible. I'm not even going to look at the comment section right now, just so that we can proceed with this information. Okay. So let's put everything into perspective right now. So there was another comment that I really liked, and I'm glad that this comment came through because it gave me something that I didn't get a chance to talk about. So the comment was that W.E.B. Du Bois was very critical of Marcus Garvey. And yes, this is true. And a lot of people bring up W.E.B. Du Bois. Okay. Now, what you have to remember is that W.E.B. Du Bois, he didn't start becoming a little more conscious until the tail end of his career. Okay. W.E.B. Du Bois and the NAACP, those were the coons of the day. Okay. Those individuals wanted integration. Okay. And you had different schools of thought at that time. You had the school of thought that were the integrationists, and you also had the school of thought of those who were what they call black nationalists, the militants. Okay. And hold on, I gotta write this down. Another point that I don't want to forget to mention. Okay, I just had to make that point so I don't forget to mention it. Okay, and you had the militants or black nationalists. Okay, and a lot of you who subscribe to the Indian philosophy today, okay, most of you are integrationists. Okay, so at that time, you guys would have been like, and I'm just going by what I hear from a lot of people who are call themselves Aborigines today. You guys would have been with the integrationists, you know, because your heroes are W.E.B. Du Bois and, you know, people like that. I'm just going by what I hear. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. Okay. Maybe not everybody is on that same page. Okay. But from what I see and hear, a lot of people are in praise of NAACP, W.E.B. Du Bois. Okay. And even if you go on the reservation today, and I've talked to different people on the reservation, these people on the reservation say, well, the blacks at that time wanted integration, and that's why we couldn't rock with y'all. Okay, I've actually heard that on the res different times. Okay, no lie. Okay, so you guys wanted to go to the toilet with white folk. You guys wanted to integrate, go to their stores and get served coffee and food, even though the pale people told y'all that they didn't want you in the store, even though they would spit in your coffee, spit in your food, and you'd still want it anyway. Okay. The Garveyites, the Garveyites, you're talking about the Garveyites at that time and stuff like that, they were more militant. Garvey, let's put it this way, Garvey at that time, see, the reason why Garvey is heavily criticized, because Garvey at that time was like how many of y'all heard of Dr. Khalid Muhammad? If you ever heard of Dr. Khalid Muhammad, put a thumbs up or put a one up. I know a lot of y'all are young, so y'all probably never heard of Dr. Khalid Muhammad. Okay, but he was a member of the Nation of Islam back in the days. Okay, and he got thrown out because he was just too militant. Okay, he was too militant for Farrakhan. He was just too militant. Okay, he ain't take no mess. Okay, and I knew Dr. Khalid. Okay, I've met him on more than one occasion. Okay, because Dr. Khalid was the type of person. I mean, I ain't know him like, call him up like that, but see him in the street, he'd give the nod and be like, because I was everywhere. I've sat down and talked with him, but he was just that type of person. Khalid was like, he would, he didn't need like, a whole bunch of FOI around him and stuff like that. He'd just be like, hey, brother, come up to you and, slap hands with you and, and poly with you. Okay. So, okay, I see there's some who have heard of Dr. Khalid Muhammad. Okay. So when you talk about a figure like Garvey was more like a Khalid Muhammad of that day. So naturally, he's not going to be popular. Okay. The black nationalists of that day, and again, we're talking black nationalists because these were the labels that were used at the time. Okay. Again, we're talking another era. Right now, we're in a different time and space with more information. So we know that these are misnomers, and even a lot of, realistically, okay, let me put it into perspective. Garvey named his organization the Universal Negro Improvement Association. He didn't name it the Universal Negro Improvement Association because he agreed with the misnomer Negro. Okay, it was because that's where our people were at that particular time. Okay, and if you try to go too far ahead of our people, you're going to lose them. Okay, so that's why he named it the Universal Negro Improvement Association, because our people's minds were messed up at that time and you couldn't come to them. Even Garvey's orientation that he professed was Christian. His organization was Christian in orientation. However, at heart, Garvey was not a Christian. And even if you read in the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, he talked about how Islam, was really the right religion. Now I'm not trying to sway anybody to say you have to be Muslim or this, that, and the other. That's not my point. I'm just saying that people do things at certain times in history depending on where the consciousness of the people. If you try to go too far out there, nobody's gonna listen to you. They're just gonna tune you out. So you have to meet people where they are, meet people where they're at, and you'll get more people to listen to you. Okay, so the Garveyites were the militants. Okay, W.E.B. Du Bois and them and the NAACP, those were the coons at that time. Okay, now again, W.E.B. Du Bois didn't wake up until later. Okay, but in his early career, straight up coon. Okay, but the Garveyites, black nationalists, they were not trying to integrate. They wanted to integrate. Okay, not only that, but they were critical of Garvey, not even so much of his politics, but also because of his color. Okay, W.E.B. Du Bois and the NAACP and all that, they had what they call colorism going on. Okay, these were light-skinned Negroes who felt that, they had a color cast, and they felt that the lighter skinned people were the privileged ones at that time. And, you have to lighten up the race, okay, in order to advance. Okay, they had the whole color brainwash. Okay, you gotta remember, our people were messed up in the head at this particular time. And I'm not just gonna talk. The fierce truth seeker doesn't talk. Okay, the fierce truth seeker comes with receipts. Okay, and I'm about to pull out some receipts right now. Okay, so let me see. See what we have in the comment section here. Let's see. Question. So let me see. FaceTime Radio says question. So the other Indians know we are Indians. Woo! I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I know FaceTime, you may be new to the channel, but I've been saying this years ago. This whole Aboriginal thing, and you may have to go back and listen to the beginning of the lectures on that I did entitled The Empire Strikes Black. But this whole what you call Aboriginal paradigm today comes out of the Moors. It was hijacked from the Moors. Okay. And what I'm getting right now is I'm getting a lot of feedback in my emails and in the comment section as well. People in the what they call Aboriginal community today are confused. They're expressing that they're confused. Okay. Because they're saying one thing, and I told y'all years ago, I said back in the days, it was just us Moors saying, hey, we're Aboriginal. Again, let me be clear. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about as a group, as a movement, as a school of thought. Okay. It was just the Moors who had the ideology saying, hey, we're indigenous. Okay. We're Aboriginal to the land. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. That whole thing was hijacked from the Moors. Okay. The thing is, you guys have been lied to. I'm sorry to say it. You guys have been lied to. Okay. And I'm not saying by really not too many people that's on YouTube today that's calling themselves Aborigines, because it goes back further than them. Most of the people who hijacked this stuff, most of that is, you don't even see them today, really. Okay. However, you only see one, but even that particular one is much later. And I'm not going to call any names. Okay. But there is one main one out there who definitely hijacked the Moorish paradigm. Okay. However, it was just Moors, it was, and I told y'all, see, I'm going backwards. As I say, y'all got to go back and listen to the earlier lectures. But I told y'all, okay, I was back in the days with my choker on and things of that nature. And, I look because I was practicing the culture, you know, but I also was studying the African history, Black consciousness, this, that, and the other. Okay. But I always knew my indigenous roots, but not to the extent of what the Moors were saying. Okay. I was approaching it more from the aspect of the Afrocentric ideology of all life started in Africa. So, okay, we Indians, but we all came from Africa. Like that type of perspective. Okay. Then once I started coming across different Moors and stuff, we used to look at them like they're crazy. We'd be like, yo, what are they talking about, yo? Because their history was different than what the current ideology was at that time. Okay. And so they were saying a lot of what you hear the Aborigines saying today. Okay. And especially once I heard the part where the Moors were saying that there's a connection with the 5 civilized tribes and the Moors and this, that, and the other, that really inspired me, who already knew my indigenous heritage. It inspired me to really look and see what the connections are. That's how I got here today. Okay. But, I'd be going to powwows and stuff like that. And, I'd be saying this stuff. And the Indians that look like you and me, who ascribe to the black, quote unquote, black Indian philosophy, okay, they did not agree with that about us being Aborigines. Their whole ideology was that they're black Indians through being African runaway slaves. Okay. For the most part, there'd be one or two here and there, but these are isolated cases. This is not the majority of them. So to answer your question, do the other Indians know? I've even had my godmother, I've had other people who are card carrying Indians and things of that nature. They do not agree with what you guys are saying. That's just, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the other Indians, they don't agree with what you're saying about this whole Aboriginal thing and stuff like that. And I've even talked with chiefs, okay, and they think you guys are cuckoo, okay. So it leads now, because this is coming out, it's causing confusion among a lot of you. Okay. It's some people are even saying that, I've even heard it being said that some of you are feeling a kind of way because you feel that some of the guests that I've had on the show or on the other sister channel, Native Voices Turtle Island, they feel that the Indians are condescending or kind of arrogant and condescending because you guys are not tribal members and things of that nature. It is what it is. I told y'all that years ago. Y'all didn't believe me, so I had to bring it live and directly to you. Okay. So what it is right now is that the confusion is that, okay, well, what do you do? Okay, well, we can't, well, where do we go? What do we do? The Indians don't want us. And the Moors, you don't want to be Moors, so you can't go there. Okay. You're at odds with the Pan-Africans. So you're just like in the middle somewhere. You're Mr. In Between right now, or Mrs. In Between. And I really feel your pain. You know, I really feel your pain. But you better do something fast. Okay. Because right now you're in limbo. But anyway, then here we have another thing. Then those who have studied a little bit more, then you say, okay, well, we're mound builders. Okay, I hear that thrown out a lot. However, you can't say you're mound builders because that comes from the Moors. that was the Empress, the Washita. Okay, that's where that comes from. So can't say you're mound builders and then say, oh, you're in, let me leave this Moorish thing away. That's where that comes from. So you can't run there either. Okay, so I suggest that you start looking at where this particular ideology has its roots, okay, and do your own due diligence from there. Anyway, I'm going to proceed and bring some receipts in on what I'm saying because I don't like to just talk. So give me 1 second and I'm going to pull up some documents. Give me 1 second. And we're going to look at a couple of videos. Okay. Okay, Islam, Carrie Bay. Okay, yeah, you have a lecture tonight. All right, so you could always look at the live. I mean, you could always look at this live on the replay. That's no problem. And somebody commented, yeah, we do it now, the light skin, dark skin thing. Yes, we do. Our people do it now. Okay. And it's unfortunate, but but it was even worse back then. Wait a minute. Yeah, a little bit worse, but there's a whole new generation out now where you guys are not that far behind how it was back then. Anyway, so let me try to get this. Let me try to pull this up here, and while I'm doing that, for those who just joined, you want to leave a donation, I'm leaving that in the chat. And let me try to get these videos up. So what we want to look at here, we want to look at what the ideology was during the time, what the ideologies were at the time of Garvey. Because the main issue is that people are saying Garvey was an agent because he led the Aborigines and American Indians astray. And again, like I just told y'all, the American Indians don't know what y'all are talking about. Okay. Yes, you did have those of us who look like us back then who were Indians, okay, on the reservation, but most of y'all were not on the reservation. Okay, y'all were just as today. It's nothing new under the sun. Okay, those are our people who are on the reservation, and you have a great mass of us who are not. It was the same back then. Okay, and most of those people on the reservation don't know nothing about what you're talking about. I'm on the reservation all the time, and I'm telling you, they don't know anything about what you're talking about. Matter of fact, they despise you guys talking this Aboriginal talk. I can get more people on here, card carrying people, to confirm what I'm saying and speak to you and tell you, no, we don't agree and don't appreciate you coming with this ideology. Okay. With that said, let's see how much that was not the ideology back in Garvey's time. Because, you know, when you criticize somebody of being an agent, that's a heavy charge to put on someone, especially someone who dedicated their time to uplifting a lost people. Okay. And it's not right to charge someone falsely of such a thing, especially if you don't have the facts. Okay. So we're going to look at, we looked at people who were, if you're new to the conversation and you didn't see the past presentations, we looked at individuals who were before Marcus Garvey, who were homegrown for the most part, with the exception of a few, who were homegrown here in North America, okay, who had Back to Africa programs long before Garvey, even before Garvey was even born, long before Garvey's parents were born, long before Garvey's grandparents were born. Okay, and I even showed you the document yesterday that said that the Back to Africa ideology was heavily discussed among Black people during that time and before Garvey, long before Garvey. So where's the Aboriginal ideology? I'm looking for it. I'm still waiting for someone to produce me an Aboriginal ideology from the 1800s, from the beginning of the 1900s, during Jim Crow, from the 1700s. Okay, I'm looking for it. I'm not talking about from individuals, because I can produce you individuals. I'm saying as a school of thought among the masses of our people is what I'm talking about. I'm still waiting for that. I'm still hearing crickets. Okay, so let's look at another piece of information here. I'm going to share the screen. Oh, wait, let me not share the screen yet. I got to pull it up. Let me see. I got to go into the email. Okay, let's see here. Okay. All right. So here, okay, let me open that tab. I'll just open up all the tabs, and this way we won't have to do this again. Hold on a second. I'm going to call you back in about an hour. I'm doing a live. Okay. Okay, which one did I just pull up? Okay, the coalition. All right, well, let's just deal with this one right now. Share screen. Tab. Okay, so I like to bring receipts, as y'all know. So this is an article. It's the Slave Rebellion website. And this right here is dealing with, let me see if y'all, let me make sure y'all can see it. Let me look on the screen here. Okay, yeah, I see it on the screen. Okay, and it's entitled The Collision in Liberia of Marcus Garvey's and W.E.B. Du Bois' version of Pan Africanisms. Okay, so scroll up, and it says here the collision in Liberia of Marcus Garvey's and W.E.B. Du Bois' version of Pan Africanism, and how colorism destroyed the dream. Okay, because y'all are not going to believe me, and I don't want you to believe me. You know, you always do your own research. You could pull this article up. Okay, so it says, and this is by Joseph E. Holloway. Okay, it says leaders of the post-war nationalist movement throughout Africa and the leaders of the African diaspora both sought an effective response to the legacy of slavery in the New World, racial segregation in the U.S., and colonial rule in Africa. Behind their endeavors, we can see the influence of both W.E.B. Du Bois' Pan-African ideology and Marcus Garvey's Back to Africa movement. Liberia was an important focal point for both. They held two competing views of how to uplift the black race. Du Bois viewed Liberia as evidence of the ability of blacks to govern themselves without whites. Garvey viewed Liberia as the ideal place to start the return to Africa and Liberia as the center of the African diaspora. Marcus Garvey's Back to Africa version and Du Bois' Pan-African ideology would collide in Liberia and destroy Garvey's Pan-African dream of a homeland in Africa. The Pan-African Conference start with Sylvester William in 1900 and continue with W.E.B. Du Bois. The Pan-African Conference and movement found an intellectual father in Du Bois who could articulate the movement and philosophy academically. The movement found in Garvey an organizer who was capable of articulating the ideas into a mass movement as the world had never seen before. On the surface, it would appear that W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey had much in common in that both believed in the redemption of Africa for the Africans and their New World descendants. Du Bois believed that Africans were capable, and Marcus Garvey believed it was his mission to be their president. Yet both fought each other as mortal enemies, destroying any possibility of the Pan-African movement taking roots in Africa. The roots of this conflict appears to have been deeper that what appeared than what appeared on the surface. They put that, but it should have been than what appeared on the surface, and more rooted in a personal conflict that was deeply rooted in the African American version of discrimination called colorism. That is discrimination by African Americans against other African Americans based on shades of color. Okay, so you see, I'm not making this up. But this is common knowledge for those of us who know the history, like myself. I'm just pulling these documents up because y'all don't know it. This essay will explore how a personal feud between Du Bois and Garvey based on this discretionary practice by Black Americans destroyed Garvey's dream of an African homeland in Liberia. Both Du Bois and Garvey's visions of Liberia were a response to white racism. Okay, let me stop right there. Okay, what a lot of y'all see, again, you guys are taking modern day ideologies and making them retroactive. Okay, Aboriginal, this, that, and the other was not an ideology back then. Okay, and I proved that yesterday For those who were not in the discussion, go back and look at yesterday's discussion. That was not an ideology back then. Okay. So it's not that Garvey was an agent because he wanted to this or that, destroy the legacy of the American Aborigines and this, that, and the other. No, that's not the case. Garvey, again, you had different schools of thought. You had the integrationists who wanted to integrate into white society. They wanted to go to the toilet with white folks. You guys wanted to go to the toilet with white folks. You wanted to get your hair to look like theirs. You wanted to straighten your hair. Okay. You wanted to bleach your skin. Okay. You wanted to marry white men and marry white women so that you can have offspring that would have, that kind of hair that you guys call good, and things of that nature. Okay. However, okay, you had a mindset at that time that the black nationalists had a problem with. Garvey and the black nationalists at that time had issues with Du Bois and NAACP, who were fighting for such foolishness. Okay. You guys wanted to have water hoses turned on you just so that you could integrate. Okay. Have the pale people back you upside the head and kick you in the behind and put foot in your behind. Okay. And the Garveyites were like, nah, we ain't with that. Okay. So being that a great majority of y'all wanted that, y'all had a problem with Garvey. Okay. Because you guys believed that you were inferior to the Caucasian race. Okay. And I told you yesterday, I told you about the Ham story in the Bible, how a lot of you believed that you were cursed with your skin color. Okay. Because of the curse of Ham. Okay. Most of our people were Judeo-Christian minded at that time. So you guys believed that. You believed when they said slaves, obey your masters. Okay. You believe that you're supposed to be enslaved. That scripture that said slaves obey your masters, and that the quote unquote black race was supposed to be forever the drawers of water and hewers of wood. Okay. You guys believe that. Okay. But that wasn't the black nationalists at that time. Okay. And we will see what Garvey's. Yes, exactly. Tamakius. I don't want to butcher your name. Tamakius Tahatan Arahatak. You are 1000% correct. It wasn't Ham. It said Canaan. Okay. Even though that was nonsense too. All of it was nonsense. But they used it, and I showed you the video of the Moore elder yesterday where he talked about how Prophet Noble Drew Ali came along and he put all of that foolishness into perspective, and how the Prophet Noble Drew Ali came at a time when our people were steeped in ignorance and darkness, okay, and corrected a lot of that. So did Garvey, okay, and I'm going to show you what Garvey's contribution to destroying that mindset of inferiority, okay, came into play. Okay, so let me continue reading on here. So it says here, where did I leave off at? Liberia, both go. Okay, much of the conflict between Du Bois and Garvey was not based in ideology because both were Pan Africanists. Hold on, let me wait for this noise outside. Again, I'm in the Bronx. You know, it's a lot of noise out here. A lot of noise out here. Okay, so yeah, it says much of the conflict between Du Bois and Garvey was not based in ideology because both were Pan Africanists, but colorism was rooted in ideas of caste, class, and color by America's mulatto class. Okay, the mulatto class. The conflict also had much to do with the colonial background of each leader. Marcus Garvey was born on the West Indian island of Jamaica in 1887. He worked as a printer, labor organizer, and later as a newspaper publisher. He attempted to expose the racial situation inside Jamaica and gave the darker colored Jamaicans fairer treatment. After becoming dismayed by the living conditions of workers and the exploitation by white and mulatto overseers, Garvey tried in vain to persuade Jamaican officials to intervene. In 1912, he was exiled from Jamaica to London by the British colonial government. Okay, so a lot of people are having criticisms about him being exiled and this, that, and the other. Okay, well, you know, if you have people who are fighting against the powers that be, against racism, of course they're going to be deported. Okay, again, we talked about Garvey. Garvey was like, you know, at that time, Garvey was like the Khalid Muhammad of that day. Okay, and when you talk about the Garvey movement, a lot of people who were part of the Nation of Islam were former Garveyites, okay, including Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad was part of Garvey's movement, and you find influence in the teachings of Garvey in the Nation of Islam, as well as uh, influence from the Moorish Science Temple. Okay, and Garv and even Prophet Noble Drew Ali held Marcus Garvey in high esteem. So to accuse Garvey of being an agent, then you would have to also cross-examine Noble Drew Ali. Okay, because I showed you yesterday, I went into the Holy Quran Circle 7, and I showed you where Garvey is held in high esteem in here and heralded as the John the Baptist and forerunner of Noble Drew Ali. These are Prophet Noble Drew Ali's words, not mine. Okay, so you can see the heavy influence that Garvey had on Elijah Muhammad and Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Okay, and you can't just say that he was, you know, he was an agent, this, that, and the other because of his philosophies about Africa and this, that, and the other, because what I'm showing you is that this was the prevailing ideology of the time. Okay, and anyone who disagrees, present evidence to the contrary, and I'll be all ears. Okay, so here, where did I leave off at? Okay, we're talking about colorism. Okay, so in 1912, he was exiled from Jamaica to London. We read that already. There, he met Dusay Muhammad, a black Egyptian who was promoting the defeat of European colonialism everywhere. He worked on Muhammad's magazine, African Times, and the Orient Review. There, he met Africans, talking about Marcus Garvey. He met Africans and studied about the continent and became a Pan-African nationalist. Strongly influenced by Booker T. Washington's autobiography, Up from Slavery. See, I told you, y'all are not going to believe me. So that's why I like to produce the receipts. Okay, heavily influenced, okay, by Booker T. Washington. Homegrown here. Okay, I told y'all that, but y'all didn't want to believe me. Okay, so Garvey didn't come with anything new. Okay, Garvey just came. Garvey was an excellent orator. Garvey had the gift of gab. Okay, so he knew how to organize. Okay, that was what distinguished Garvey. He knew how to organize the people. Okay, but he didn't come with anything new, and he didn't come with anything that didn't already exist here, that people here from North America didn't already try to establish. Okay, so again, you got to do the knowledge. You got to know this history. Okay, so now it says, strongly influenced by Booker T. Washington's autobiography, he returned to Jamaica in 1914 and set up an organization called the Universal Negro Improvement Association and the African Committees League, UNIA, to unite people of color all over the world. To bring this to reality, Garvey moved to New York in 1916 and resided in Harlem. Economic independence was another factor in the UNIA plan. Garvey was one of the first blacks to urge his followers to buy black, to patronize their own businessmen, similar to Booker T. Washington's stress on self-sufficiency. Okay, so if Garvey's an agent, then hey, I want to follow that kind of agent. Okay, who's saying do for self? Okay, well, yeah, let's follow that. I want to follow that kind of agent. Okay, the UNIA opened several business projects, including the Negro Factories Corporation to assist black businesses. Garvey founded the Black Star Steamship Line to serve as a commercial and spiritual tie among black people everywhere. Okay, that's another subject for another time. Okay, Garvey was accused of mail fraud and this, that, and the other, and that was nonsense too. See, again, y'all are on the outside looking in. Okay, and I'm going to prove that to be nonsense as well when we do the next part. Okay, so it says here, stress on self-sufficiency. Garvey founded the Black Star Steamship Line to serve as a commercial and spiritual tie to black people everywhere, like Bishop Turner's shipping attempts. See, we talked yesterday about Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, who was homegrown from here, who also had a Back to Africa movement long before Garvey. Okay, it says here, like Bishop Turner's shipping attempts, the Black Star Steamship Line stocks were sold to blacks only, and Garvey promised stock buyers that they would not only be helping their race, but might also make a profit. Garvey collected enough money between 1919 and 1925 to buy 4 steam handships and to begin trade in the Caribbean. Okay, so again, as you saw just there in that chapter, Garvey wasn't doing anything that our people hadn't done here already. Okay, so here it says Dubois, Washington, and Garvey. Early in Dubois' life, hold on a second. Is the food still on the stove? Oh, you turned it off. Okay, sorry to wake you up. Early in Du Bois' life, he was an integrationist and shared the same class as Booker T. Washington in that they were more of the mulatto elite. Du Bois had what he described as a little Dutch, a little French, and a little black. Washington was the son of a white father and a slave mother. They fought over the ideas of who had the right to lead the masses of African Americans. Du Bois wanted to build an intellectual and scholarly community, whereas Washington believed in black capitalism, black spending and buying in their own communities, and circulating black dollars among African Americans. The issues between Du Bois and Garvey was class warfare, and the same issue still plagues Black America. Du Bois spoke to his base, mainly African American from northern states who lived in urban communities that were college educated, professional, and light skinned. And as they used to say, light skinned, okay? College educated, professional, and light skinned, honey. You know, as Negroes used to say. Washington spoke to his base, who were farmers, domestics, and trade peoples who lived in the South. Du Bois believed that if African Americans could prove to white Americans that they were no intellectual different that there were no intellectual differences between the two, there would be no need for racism as a weapon against African Americans. Washington believed that you achieve racial harmony by separating yourself from white Americans and by building separate political, economic, and cultural realities based on Southern values of work and uplifting the masses. Okay, demonstrating one's value and equality would remove racism and open the door for inclusion in the future. As much as this was a fight for leadership, it was also a fight for the best approach to fight racial discrimination in America. So again, when you talk about the black nationalists at that time and the Garvey and all that, talking about a base in Africa and stuff like that, you got to remember this was a time where you had extreme racism, extreme violence towards our people, and a lot of people started giving up hope in any type of justice here. So people were starting to look elsewhere and started to look at places like Liberia, Sierra Leone, not as because they were agents and things of that nature. It was because they wanted to separate themselves from quote unquote white people or Caucasian people and Caucasian racism. Okay, that's what it had to do with. It didn't have anything to do with uh, Garvey or any of the others at that time trying to do anything that was out of the interest of the American Aborigines and things of that nature. No, it wasn't that. Okay, it was that they were trying to separate themselves and be away from all of the Jim Crow and the racism and the violence and lynching and things of that nature. See, it's easy to sit up today and talk about, oh yeah, they tried to do this to the Aborigines and blah 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 and blah 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 blah. If you were living in those times, you wouldn't be talking that nonsense. You'd be trying to figure out something too, you know, a way to get away from these devils. Okay. And I'm saying devils because that's what they were at the time. Okay. And a lot of people say, oh man, you know, if I was back then, they did that to me, I would have, I would have punched one of them out, or I would have shot one of them, or I would have, I would have told them kiss my ass, blah. You wouldn't, Negro, you wouldn't have did nothing but sit your ass down somewhere, shut the fuck up, and been quiet as they put foot in your ass. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry for cursing on. I hope there are no children watching. Okay, but let's just be real, because you always have 20/20 vision in hindsight. Okay, but let's look at it today. Okay, it's not much has changed. Okay, you have just as much police brutality today and things of that nature. You have much racism and brutality and things of that nature. The only difference is now they're wearing uniforms. Okay, and I don't see you Negroes doing a thing, not a doggone thing. Okay, a lot of people, you got a lot of gangs out there, and as Dr. Collard used to say, white boy can come up, a cop come up to you, and you hard, you kill Bill, you do or die slide, and white boy come up to you, Packer will come up to you, and he say, get up against the wall, buddy, and all of y'all, it's one of him, and it's like 10 of y'all, all of y'all get up against the wall, and you spread your legs. What happened to Kill Will? What happened to all Super Thug, and like let's be real, so you guys who talk all that, you wouldn't have done a damn thing. Okay, just like you ain't doing nothing today. All right, but it was during that time, this was very fearful times for our people back then. Okay, very fearful times. And like I said, it's easy to sit up here and talk trash right now, but imagine a woman back then with her children coming from the store and wondering if they're going to be lynched every day. Okay, or a brown man going to the store, okay, or going to work or whatever, and have to wonder if the KKK is going to corner him off as he's on his way home and take him somewhere and lynch him and throw him in a ditch. Okay, so our people were throwing around different ideas about what our people can do to get from under this oppression. Okay, in the meantime, they're looking at things that are going on in the East. Okay, and they're looking at different groups of our people who are fighting for independence, and nations of people who all look like us, who are fighting and putting foot in the colonizers behind. Okay, so that's where that's the scenario that you have to look at. So anyway, I'm gonna try to I was gonna play a video for y'all, a couple of videos, but I'm way over time, and I'm just gonna finish this article here. So it says here, where did I leave off at? Okay, so Garvey understood. Let me see. I think I left off at racial harmony and cultural, uplifting the masses, demonstrating one's. Okay, Garvey understood Washington's approach and wanted to replicate it and build a world movement based on, following Booker T. Washington's approach. Okay, he followed Washington's lead. See, I told y'all that, in the previous lectures, but y'all don't believe me, so I have to have it for you in print. Okay, so he duplicated Booker T. Washington, okay, replicated it, and built a world movement based on his economic philosophy and accommodation to separation from white America. Okay, wasn't that Garvey was trying to undermine the Aborigines and blah blah blah? No, it was not that. Okay, we read it right here: separation from white America. Okay, that's what it was about at that time. Wasn't no Aborigines and blah blah blah. Wasn't no internet back then or nothing like that. Again, when you read history, everything has to be put into context. You have to read everything in proper context in regards to time and place. Okay, so says here, Garvey realized early on what Washington was really about, and was to see America as a homeland for the black diaspora. Garvey wanted to achieve the same goal, thus the birth of the Back to Africa movement, which was not a new ideal in America. See, y'all couldn't believe me, so I have to bring it to you in black and white and bring the receipts. Okay? Now, if it says here that the Back to Africa movement was not a new ideal in Black America, then what's all this talk about American Aborigine? And he was trying to undermine the American Aborigines. How is he trying to undermine the American Aborigines, and all he's doing is following what the quote unquote Black Americans are doing? I don't know. Okay, it says was not a new, and I told y'all that yesterday, and I also read another document that said the exact same thing, that this was not a new ideal in Black America. Okay, so if there were so many people saying, oh, we're Aborigine and blah 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 blah, then why is there so many people talking about Back to Africa movement? Okay, again, I'm not saying that we're not Aboriginal. I'm not saying that at all. But as I said yesterday, remember, our people had fallen asleep, okay, in the land of Nod. Okay, so it wasn't until later on that people came with more knowledge, okay, and started to build upon that. Okay, Garvey, Noble Drew Ali came on the scene, okay, and started building on these ideologies. He had some new information, okay, and they even have the letter where Garvey went to meet with, Noble Drew Ali went to meet Garvey when he was in jail, and Garvey was, and Noble Drew Ali was talking to Garvey about, nationality and things of that nature, and Garvey was like, yeah, you're right. You know what I'm saying? So, that's how it is. You can't, people come and they lay a foundation, then someone else comes along with superior information and take it to the next level. Okay, that's how it is. But you can't look today when we have all of this information and start criticizing people in the past, and and say, oh, they did this, that, and the other, when you're looking at stuff in a different time period when our people had a different mentality and we didn't have all the information that we have today. Okay, so it says here, the Back to Africa was not a new ideal in Black America. Many others came before him, including Paul Coffey, who was an Indian. Okay, who was an Indian. Martin Delany, Bishop Henry McNeill Tunica. Okay, Turner, as you know, that's an indigenous name. Okay, the Empress from the Washita, she is a Turner, Tunica. Okay, and Chief Sam, to mention a few. And when they say a few, these were some of the back to Africa proposed. So if all the Aborigines were just talking Aborigine this and Aborigine that, then why is an Aborigine here talking about a back to Africa movement? And more than one at that, two of them, three of them. Okay? And all these people here are homegrown, four of them. And even more than that, actually. Okay? So what was unique about his movement was to use Liberia as his headquarters for reconnecting Black Americans to the African diaspora. And even that wasn't new with Garvey, because there were those same people before him also did the same thing. Garvey was so impacted by the ideas and philosophies of Booker T. Washington that he corresponded with him. Washington invited him to Tuskegee and offered to raise funds for his programs. He was to do in Jamaica what Washington did in the South: build educational, economic institutions to help the masses of Blacks elevate themselves from poverty. Garvey attempted on several occasions to reach out to Du Bois. At their initial first meeting in May 1915 in Jamaica, while Du Bois was visiting, Garvey sent him a welcoming letter. Garvey took the opportunity to explain to Du Bois his plan for uniting the African diaspora. It does not appear that Du Bois was impressed. At the time, Du Bois was an integrationist and believed that the way to fight racial discrimination and Jim Crowism was to prove to white America that there were no differences between white and Black intellect. Garvey believed that because of racial discrimination and racism, that Black Americans needed to create their own land, and that Liberia would become his base for his empire of Africa that would establish the United States of Africa with himself as president. Give me 1 second. My battery is dying, so I gotta do a quick plug in here. And on that note, my friends, I am going to end this live and continue on. And I have a whole lot more to share. Let me just try to hold on. Let me see how much more I got to read here. Yeah, it's just too much. It's too much. Let me see. All right, let me try to read this fast. Okay, the following year, Garvey moved to New York in 1916 and went to the office of NAACP headquarters to invite Du Bois to his first speaking engagement. The meeting was a disaster. Needless to say, Du Bois politely declined and was not available to meet with Garvey. Garvey later mentioned his impression of the NAACP. In his words, "I was unable to tell whether he was in a white office or that of the NAACP." Eventually, Garvey got his act together and developed the largest black mass back to Africa movement in the history of America. Before traveling to America to learn about the Black issues, he attended, and the Black issues, obviously, wasn't anything on the plate about American Aborigines, because he came and studied what was going on here among our people here. He studied his people, wasn't no Aboriginal thing on the table, didn't tell you that was not on the table. He attended a religious revival and heard Billy Sunday's preaching and found his voice. His vision for Black Americans came about after a tour of America. And he concluded what American Negroes had going for them was white racism, which forced Black America to build their own segregated institutions and to develop a racial consciousness that would, in time, gain respect from whites. This was the fundamental construct of what became Garveyism. Okay, so in other words, what to put that into perspective is that where he came from, and I'm adding to this, okay, because again, I belong to a Garvey organization and I had the privilege of talking with a lot of elders who gave me the information about Garvey that I have that I'm sharing with you now so I can put a lot of this stuff into perspective. Okay, where Garvey came from, racism did exist, but not as it did here in North America. Okay, so that's, I'm putting that last paragraph into perspective. Okay, so what is meant by that there? Okay, he recruited members during, because again, a lot of people read this stuff and they're not, they're saying he praised white people and this, that, and the other. He did not praise white people. If someone has some information with saying that he praised white people, I would have to see that for myself. And I guarantee you, you're taking what's written out of context. Okay. Anyway, it says he recruited members during the war years, but was not successful because the economy was in good condition. However, with World War I ending, the race riots of 1919 swayed many African American ex-soldiers to join his organization. Garvey was able to increase his numbers through his brilliant analysis of the world situation and of blacks in relation to the new economic and political trends. For instance, World War I, in Garvey's view, had been a fratricidal war fratricidal war among Europeans for control over colonies in Africa and throughout the non-white world. He reasoned that in the future, Africans in the Western Hemisphere would find themselves in rapidly declining circumstances. The unskilled poor blacks would become obsolete in the workforce with advancing technology. The black intelligentsia would face frustration in societies that serve the privilege of advancement for whites. It left unchanged. Garvey, Garvey, no, if left unchanged, Garvey's world would consume the population of Africa as the industrialized nations competed over its mineral wealth. As with Bishop Henry McNeill Turner, okay, again, Henry McNeill Turner, someone who was way before Garvey's time, central to Garvey's philosophy was the need to unite all black people and to give them a racial self-confidence that would enable them to throw off white oppression. Yeah, I think I'm going to end it right there because it's just too much. Okay. It's we got a lot to cover. And I'm by no means through. I have a whole bunch more to share. This will probably have to go on for maybe four more lectures because that's just how much information I have to share on this topic. Okay. So on that note, I'm going to sign off here. Let me stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah, because I have a lot more, and it's going to take me probably into midnight, or actually longer than that, to even get started. I haven't even really gotten started with the information yet. That's how much. more information I got to share. So I'm going to, let's see, stop sharing, put it here and here. Okay. And on that note, I'm hungry now. It's time to eat. I thank everyone who joined in. Okay. And I'm going to say until the next time, Doda da Gahan E.